Hi, English learners. Welcome back to Podcast Time. I'm here to help you improve your English skills. Part 1, to improve listening skills.
All right, so we got a request to really dive deep into how to improve English listening skills,
Oh, nice.
specifically for someone who's, just beginning.
Okay, cool.
So our mission today is to take all this info we've gathered and give some advice you can use like right away.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe we could start with like when you're first getting started. What's a good way to start?
Well, I think the most important thing is to just get as much listening in as possible.
Okay.
To just get used to the sounds of the language.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like intense study sessions or anything,
Right.
Even just short, regular doses of listening can make a difference.
Okay, so like short bursts throughout the day.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of stuff would you recommend listening to?
I would say like simple English children's songs.
Oh, interesting.
They often have like clear pronunciation and they repeat phrases a lot,
Okay.
which
yeah.
can help you start to pick out individual words and how they all fit together.
So you start to recognize the sounds and the patterns. Okay, cool. What else?
Short animated videos that are made for young learners can also be helpful.
Good.
Because you get those visuals.
So they kind of guide you.
Exactly.
Cool. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, you're listening to all this stuff,
Mm.
but how can you actively train your listening?
Yeah. So active listening basically means focusing on what you're hearing and trying to understand it,
Okay.
even if you don't get every single word.
Right.
So like a good exercise you could do is to listen to a short story
Okay.
and then try to say back like what happened.
Okay.
Even if it's just, one or two sentences in your own words.
So you're basically summarizing it, even if you miss some details.
Right. And if you're watching something, maybe you can try to identify a few words that you recognize.
Okay, cool. So it's not about like perfect understanding.
No, not at all.
It's about like getting the gist of it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And another really good tip is to listen to the same audio multiple times.
Oh, interesting.
So like the first time you might just get the general idea. The second time you might catch more specific words or phrases.
Okay.
And by the third time, you might even start to understand some of the finer points that you missed before.
Wow. So it's like layers.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
peel back the layers of the onion.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So repetition is really key.
Absolutely.
But what about all the different ways that people speak English?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Should you be worried about different accents when you're starting out?
I think when you're first beginning, it's best to focus on like a clearer, more standard pronunciation
Okay.
so that you can build that like foundation of understanding. And then as your listening gets better,
Okay.
you can gradually expose yourself to more and more accents.
Okay, so start with the basics and then branch out.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Are there any common mistakes that you see people making when they're trying to improve their listening?
Yeah. One big one is getting discouraged if you don't understand everything.
Yeah.
Even native speakers miss things sometimes.
Right. Cool.
And another one is relying too heavily on subtitles.
Oh, interesting.
While they can be helpful sometimes,
Yes.
try to listen without them as much as possible
Ah, okay.
to really train your ear.
So it's like training wheels. You got to take them off at some point.
Exactly.
Cool. So to kind of sum it all up, what would you say is like the most important thing to remember?
I would say the most important thing is just to consistently expose yourself to English audio
Okay.
and to try your best to understand what you're hearing,
Got it.
especially when you're just starting out.
Okay.
Even small, regular effort will lead to progress over time.
Awesome. So it's all about just being consistent.
Yes, exactly.
So keep that in mind. And, maybe think about this.
Okay.
What if you focused on just one type of listening material,
Okay.
like just simple songs or short stories
Yeah.
for like a week?
Interesting.
How much would your understanding change, and what new things would you hear when you listen to the same things multiple times?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's all about taking that deep dive, even into things that seem simple.
I love that.
All right, thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Part 2, learn English through movies.
Okay, so we're back and, picking up from what we were talking about before with, how to really boost your English listening skills.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that, a lot of people are really interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely a fun way to learn.
Absolutely.
And we're going to kind of zero in on movies today
Okay.
because I think that's a really, accessible and engaging way
Yeah.
that people like to to learn and to practice their English.
For sure. And I think the goal today is to really unpack how you can actively use movies to learn English.
Right.
It's not just about watching and passively, absorbing information.
Right. It's not just about entertainment.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's really about using them as a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into that. Like,
Yeah.
what's so powerful about learning with movies?
Well, I think one of the most powerful things is the context.
Okay.
You're not just hearing words in isolation.
Yeah.
You're seeing how people interact. You're seeing their body language, their facial expressions, the environment they're in,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that visual information really helps you understand the nuances of the language.
Yeah. It's funny because, you think about tone of voice
Mm-hmm.
and how that can completely change the meaning of something.
Oh, yeah.
And if you see somebody, delivering a line and maybe they're giving you a certain look,
Right.
immediately you're like, oh, they're being sarcastic
Mm-hmm.
or, oh, they're really serious.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And those are those subtle cues that you might miss if you were just listening to audio.
Totally.
So it's really about that visual input as well.
Yeah. It's like you're getting like a little mini immersion,
Right.
even though it's, within this kind of cinematic world.
Exactly. It's still immersion.
Yeah.
And it's helping your brain get used to the rhythm and the flow of the language.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, obviously like listening is huge, but I know that vocabulary is a big thing that people are focused on.
Oh, for sure.
And so much of it is about seeing it in context, right?
Absolutely.
Because, how many times have we all looked up a word and we're like, wait,
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense in this sentence.
Right.
Like, how is that the definition?
And it's because it's been taken out of context.
Yeah.
So movies are a great way to see those words used naturally.
Yeah, so how can you actively use movies to build your vocabulary?
Well, one thing you can do is keep a movie vocabulary journal.
Okay.
So after you watch a scene, maybe jot down a few words or phrases that you didn't understand.
Okay.
Then later you can look them up, see what they mean, and try to use them in a sentence yourself.
I like that.
It's just a few words each time.
Yeah.
And over time that really adds up.
That's a really good tip.
Yeah.
And I think, vocabulary is one, pronunciation is a huge one.
Oh, absolutely.
And what role do movies play there?
Well, they're a great way to just hear native speakers pronounce words correctly with natural intonation and rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
So, by listening to that, you're training your ear.
Yeah.
You're starting to internalize those sounds and those patterns.
And it's not just, one type of English, right?
Well,
Because you
yeah.
could be watching, movies from all over the place.
Exactly. That's one of the great things about it. You're exposed to different accents,
Yeah.
whether it's British, American, Australian, you name it.
Totally.
So it helps you understand different ways that English is spoken around the world.
So basically what we're saying is your next movie night
Yeah,
can be like this huge English learning opportunity.
absolutely.
But I think you need to approach it with, a little bit of intention, right?
Right. You got to be active about it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so what are some like concrete things that people can do?
Well, first of all, I'd say choose a movie that you're actually interested in,
Yeah.
something that you'll enjoy watching. Yeah.
Maybe even a movie that you've already seen in your native language.
Okay.
So you got to know the plot.
Okay.
And then when it comes to subtitles, try watching a scene first without subtitles.
Oh, I like that.
See how much you can understand just from listening.
Okay.
Then watch it again with
Wow.
English subtitles to clarify anything you missed.
Right.
And then maybe even watch it the third time without subtitles,
Wow.
just to really reinforce your listening.
I love that little strategy.
Yeah.
And then, I think another thing is so many people, I think they'll be watching something and then they'll hear something they don't understand and they'll just kind of let it go.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well,
Yeah, don't do that.
but don't do that.
Pause the movie, rewind,
Yeah.
listen again.
Yeah.
And if you have subtitles available, use them at that moment to figure out what was said.
Totally.
Don't be afraid to break it down.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think we can safely say that, learning English through movies is really like the best of both worlds.
Because you're getting, this entertainment. You're getting exposure to natural language and you're learning about a culture, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like such a fun and rewarding way to learn.
Yeah. And it's something that you can do on your own time, at your own
Yeah.
pace. It's very
Yeah.
flexible.
So as you're, choosing that movie for tonight or for this weekend,
Mhm.
just think for a second about how can you go a little bit deeper?
Yes.
How can you, move beyond that passive viewing?
Yeah.
And really use this as an opportunity to boost your English.
Engage with the language.
Yeah.
Engage with the culture.
Totally.
And see how much you can learn.
I love it.
Have fun with it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.